Google, Microsoft, Meta. These are the Axis powers. No, that's a bit far. But Apple's a very big hardware company with a big emphasis on software, and they started off their days with their arch nemesis being Microsoft, who then later came around and ended up kind of saving them. But these days, most of Apple's revenue comes from the iPhone, and a lot of that competes with Android, which is owned by Google. But simultaneously, though, Google is still partnering with Apple on many software projects and making sure that that default search engine doesn't change. So the question remains, if Meta ends up going head-to-head now with Apple when it comes to the spatial computing market, how are they actually going to collaborate or work together long run? We're not going to know today, but we are going to know how exactly these guys are going head-to-head. Let's begin. So the reason I'm saying that Meta is basically declaring war on visionOS right now is because they just recently announced that they are open sourcing Meta Horizon OS. Really gotta work on that name. Drop the Meta. It sounds cleaner. But for those of you wondering what the heck does that mean, open sourcing your operating system, it means that Meta essentially wants to run the software that is the base plate for everything mixed reality that's not owned by Apple. In other words, Meta wants to be the Android for the headset community. Or if you want to use an older example, Meta wants to be Windows for the mixed reality headset space, because they're going to be enabling third-party companies to develop their own headsets now with their own hardware that can now run Meta Horizon OS natively, can access alternative app stores, so it doesn't have to just be Meta's app store anymore. You can build out your own virtual reality app market if you don't want to build it through Meta's. And I believe Meta's hoping that open sourcing their software makes the idea of bringing more hardware options to the market will become more digestible and a lot more practical for some of these third-party companies, which they've already announced several. At the same time, they're announcing that they're going to be open source, including Lenovo, saying they want to have a productivity, education, learning focused headset, whatever that means. But also Asus, who loves to make dedicated gaming hardware like with their gaming phones, they apparently also want to make a high-performance gaming headset that can now be based on the Meta Horizon operating system. And they even said Microsoft is working on their own version of the Quest headset, which is probably just going to be a Quest 3 with some Xbox-themed accents, so just slap some lime green on there and call it a day. But still, coming up with the app market and a lot of the base plate software is part of the reason that I think a lot of these third parties didn't want to develop their own headsets, because not only is it a big task to build, you know, one of these somewhat lightweight but somewhat fast and capable displays that can fit on your face, that don't get too heavy, that have to have some kind of battery life, but also having to build out all of the software to go along with it, like making sure there's a bunch of apps compatible with it and that kind of thing. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of investment, and Meta, I think, is trying to be that shortcut for a lot of these third-party companies that enables them to go, okay, we don't have to try too hard on the software, let's just focus on the hardware. And Meta's probably looking for all the hope they can get in the Horizon OS landscape, because we all know that they're losing money on the hardware of the headsets themselves. Their intention is to make all the money back through software sales and being basically the Android or the Windows for the mixed reality headset space. And by being more open source, they're, I guess, trying to welcome more players to the game and then hope that that brings more app development and more in-app purchases to their specific store, which they take a fee on. Sounds like another business model you may have heard of out there. Although, I should say Meta's approach is a lot more open than Apple's, because, of course, you can use alternative app stores on the Quest hardware and all of these other hypothetical headsets that are supposed to be coming later that we just don't know much about yet. But we know at least Asus, Lenovo, and Microsoft should be releasing their own headsets built with this operating system, which should be a bit interesting. I'm curious if these other companies are actually able to bring out a bit more of a rich, vibrant app market, or convince more people to go with a mixed reality headset that weren't previously interested. If there is a gamer emphasis that could come out of the Asus headset, that'd be fascinating. And if Microsoft can find a way to bring more of their exclusive game titles to the Quest, that might win some more people over. But simultaneously, Lenovo trying to develop a headset that's more productivity and education focused showcases that Meta believes that this is much, much bigger than just the gaming community, and that there's going to be a lot of companies collaborating now on this open source platform that Apple is going to have to try pretty hard to compete with now. And I would say Apple's probably at a huge disadvantage simply because the Vision Pro is $3,500, and there's probably next to no chance that Apple is going to make Vision OS open source. I don't think Apple's going to want to collaborate with other companies on spatial computing, but they already had pretty much the most expensive option in the market, and now there's going to be not just the Meta Quest it's competing against, but all of these other companies making their own headsets, which are running the same software and can share tools and share apps between each other and have a much more open platform, which a lot of governments seem to be forcing Apple to be more of these days anyway, whereas Apple's probably going to try to keep Vision OS locked down and secure as much as possible, but with that high entry price of $3,500, how many devs are really going to be incentivized to make apps for Vision OS if they know that the market is going to be particularly small? That makes it hard to justify, and there's already a lot of evidence suggesting that usage and interest in Apple Vision Pro is dying down pretty quickly. So once again, I'm really hopeful for some kind of big update that kind of excites us again for the future of the Vision Pro at DubDub. That's likely where Apple would showcase Vision OS 2.0, even though Vision Pro just launched a couple months ago. Keep in mind, watchOS 2 was unveiled just a few months after the first Apple Watches started shipping. So it's possible, but knowing that Apple's been laying off employees and cutting back on spending, who knows, maybe they're just gonna go all in on AI and Vision OS 2.0 might be kind of a letdown. We'll see. What do you guys think of Meta's decision to go the open source route? Do you think this is purely financially motivated, or do you think they're genuinely passionate and excited to open up the floodgates to allow more developers and more companies to build hardware and software on top of their ecosystem? All that stuff, let me know what you're thinking down in the comments below, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos, so thanks again. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you all in the next one.